All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Right. So first of all, thanks for that great introduction. Thanks for having me on the pod. I appreciate it. Looking forward to having a good discussion. So yeah, everyone, my name is Addison Houston. I am out here in Austin, Texas. I am the CEO and co-founder of RBIT Financial. I am a builder. The quest that we're on is how can we make energy affordable? How can we make energy more equitable for the masses? And primarily, what we're offering through RBIT are some leverage solutions in the market that are seeking to make affordability equitable via cashback reimbursements. So actual cash capital that not only um, can aid in someone's purchase and flip them to go solar, which is obviously beneficial for the supply chain and the industry, but it also unlocks their ROI much faster for them owning their own electricity. And so that's a scaled solution that we've been building out over the last almost a year up to this point. And we've seen lots of traction with lots of homeowners and installers and so forth. The quest is how can we build a privatized self-funding solution out there for people. So I've been laser focused on that. And then as well, busy with other ventures such as Faith and Future, which is my design studio. We do a lot of consumer products, consumer electronics through that as well. So yeah, staying busy.
Amazing. I can see. I'm not gonna ask your age. I usually don't do that, but seems like you're young, and maybe you want to share that with us. But you're a young entrepreneur. Already, have two ventures on your way. I think that we had a conversation prior to podcast that this is not really your first rodeo. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your upbringing, right, and what really inspired you to take that entrepreneurship life, and head on, full steam at such a young age, be inspired to make it on your own at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, so for those who don't know, I'm 26 years young currently, but I feel like I've aged in dog years being in the solar industry. But besides that, yes, I do have two ventures. I have RBIT Financial, we're registered C Corp, and Faith on Futures LLC. But obviously, those aren't the first two that I've done. Actually, I've led other rounds of, I've had like many different like startup experiences, ranging from, I think the time when I was 13 is when I tried to like start my first venture with my friends. Uh, and we were selling like computer parts or something. We were like disassembling like, you know, uh, computers or what have you. Um, and just like tinkering with parts. So I've always had like a mind for like business, not really just business, but more so just like being an inventor, filled up books and journals with like doodles and, different like sketches of what could be, you know, I always like kept, that inquisitive mind and just really tried to like see like what could be and always ask like the whys and the whats and hows. And that's kind of what's led my journey today.
Amazing. As a preview to kind of your life, what does a normal Monday, Tuesday look like you, right? What are the things that you're focusing on? What are you involved in a day to day,
Yeah, that's a good question. Typical day to day, um, investor outreach here or there, talking to different investors, talking to different capital allocators, because what we're doing here at Arbit in particular is very capital intensive. And so obviously, formulating, different business models as far as, okay, uh, this is a direction that we could go regarding this, or, um, looking at like, how could we obviously minimize, different drag, which is, the AI, which we'll talk about, I guess, today. How can we minimize drag within our operations? Uh, those are always like pressing items. I don't really look at my work day as like a 9 to 5 where,
right?
okay, it's 9 a.m. and then I clock out at 5. Um, a large part of my day is, um, it's almost like you're like running a marathon, but you're running like 5 of them at the same time. But it's like, I don't know. I kind of just like find time to just get to what's important and then move on and then move on and then move on. I also keep like a running list of things. So that's how I don't get, um,
Right.
I forget. So.
Quick question. I mean, what pivoted you from, doing so many ventures, right? And being involved in many ideas? What really pivoted you into, RBIT, right? I think that's probably your main venture right now, and main focus. What is it that inspired you? And I think that we all know, right, that energy is so important right now, especially talking about AI, right? I think that that's the number one big bottleneck everybody can talk about is really energy, as we build this infrastructure of the technology. But for you, what really was it that you said, okay, here's the gap, this is, I think, the opportunity, right? I see the gold here. What really turned you into this?
Right. Yeah. So, um, out of school, my senior thesis, leaving undergrad was, um, it was like a solar panel that like people could like stick up on their home or like on their like apartment window or something and still like generate electricity, which, um, I thought was kind of cool because it allowed people who were otherwise excluded from this capital generating vent to allow them to participate into it. And so a big thing with that was, and with my thesis and the project was, how could we incentivize people to go solar who otherwise wouldn't? Ultimately, like that kind of bled into like the affordability track, which you'll see, we'll discuss with RBIT. But nonetheless, so graduated the school, started working as a solar engineer for a few companies. But then what I noticed in like a lot of these companies and what I experienced from being laid off was ultimately like, it's the money that drives a lot of these decisions with energy. The only grin people care about is the money in their pocket. And so with RBIT, and from based off my personal experiences and other countless people in the industry, there's a lot of instability in the energy sector, especially like sustainability. And a lot of it is political. And so, you know, in light of last year's big, beautiful bill, which essentially rolled back the residential credit for a lot of homeowners, they can all claim 30% higher taxes. No matter what side of the fence you fall on, you see that something that homeowners should be able to access easily and be able to afford no longer is affordable for people. And if it doesn't pencil out, they're just not going to do it. They'd rather just continue to pay their slightly ever increasing utility bill, right? And so with
Right.
RBIT, again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to step into that role that the government once did with regards to reimbursing people and giving them a solar tax credit rebate, right? And we're trying to build a sustainable privatized model, because the way we see it is, why should the industry go through waxing and waning periods just simply based off of who's in office or based off of policy, right? Energy is a huge precursor to um, inflation, right? And ultimately, if we can stabilize energy and we can stabilize the access to energy and make that affordable, then our overall thesis is we can in turn make life more affordable for millions of people, indirectly or indirectly. And so at RBIT Financial, that's why back in May of last year, we set out to create this lifestyle affordability infrastructure, right? We're an infrastructure company. How can we incentivize people to make that yes decision, right? How can we incentivize people to make that yes decision to go solar or battery for their home? And inevitably, we want to scale into not just doing solar, but right now there's conversations happening right now on the roofing aspect, plumbing, HVAC, and inevitably we want to get into rent to own. And how can we make affording the place of living and cost of living more affordable? So sky's the limit with what we're building. And so we're seeking to build kind of a sustainable model that doesn't rely on government subsidies or government policy,
Right.
market driven solutions to help make affordability a dream for, not just a dream, but a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, you're attacking an issue that it's generational, right? At the end of the day, would you say now that it costs more to go solar than to power through the grid, or are people not really fully aware of the benefits of going kind of more independent, or as far as sourcing energy? What would you say it's not inspiring homeowners to just say, why not, independent, be independent, or
I mean,
harness my own energy?
yeah, that's a good question. A big thing ultimately you're seeing is a lot of people are moved by that tax credit incentive. And if they can't claim
Right.
it, a lot of people who, a lot of people are also looking at kind of like the ability to sell the energy back to the grid. But
Right.
a lot of the grid is owned by privatized corporations and companies. And, they're slowly lowering the amount of the incentive that they're paying back to homeowners for
Got it.
exporting
Uh-huh.
as the economy continues to tighten. And on top of that, oh, we're not going to give you 30% for you to install
Right.
this on your roof. And just
Correct.
on top of that, there's just a lot of filth like in the industry with like install companies and support falling out. And then now homeowners, it leaves a lot of bad taste in people's mouths if like they can't get the support they need. So word of mouth, that part of the word of mouth travels. And just overall, it's just like it's a really a bad spot for residential solar right now.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have people who don't even understand solar selling other people's solar. So you just have like a circular economy of just like everyone's just trying to like make a quick buck off of each other that just proliferates. And then you have this industry that has a good thesis, has a good tagline, save the environment, own your own power, blah, blah, blah. But like when it stacks up, there's just so much headache that like, I'm just going to pay my bill, man, and just chill. Like,
Yeah.
seems like a lot of work.
I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really an investment that you have to do. And if you don't see that, let's say that moment, uh, when you go profit, right? When you turn to profitability from your investment, if you see it too far away, it doesn't make sense. And I'm sure that, uh, with interest rates as high as they are, a lot of people could have probably refinancing, which could help them, jump into this type of investment without, having too many, keeping the liquidity in a way, right? Um, and and then I would say that, obviously the private, energy companies, if they are not incentivizing or paying for that energy, you're right, or buying that energy off of you at a rate that doesn't make sense, it makes it hard. I mean, do you have programs itself? What is the response you're seeing? And you're in Houston, Texas, right?
I'm in Austin. My last name's Houston.
You're in Austin, sorry. So you're in Austin, Texas. What would you say is the percentage of people that are actually solar in your region?
I know Texas has about, as a whole, has about a 15 to 20% adoption rate, which is a lot of people. Could be higher. Texas has very low electricity rates, but the grid sustainability is a factor that pushes a lot of people. A lot of people lost a lot of trust in ERCOT a few years ago when we had like a freeze weather pattern, which shut down half the grid and people froze in some cases to death. So Austin falls into kind of that bucket. You see a lot of people adopting solar. Austin's very, in this kind of like Central Texas area is being heavily developed, especially over the last few years. And you're seeing like a lot of people, um, you know, invest in their own energy and invest in themselves. And this is a very like upward and forward thinking environment. That's one of the reasons that attracted me to it a few months ago. And I love it here. But yeah, to answer your question, you're seeing a lot of people make the switch, but still like that tax credit, like just being pulled, that also is going to deter a lot of people. So at RBIT, the question we're seeking to answer is how can we incentivize those people and how can we make it, a no brainer for them?
Good. Sherry, you want to jump in? You have any questions? I can just follow up afterwards. I definitely have a few more questions to ask Addison.
No, no, please proceed. I will ask in the last.
Okay. Um, so let's say, what do people think about energy affordability that most people in your industry still get wrong, right?
Hmm. I think a lot of people, they think energy affordability is just, can I afford my bill? Okay, cool. Or they
Hmm.
think when it comes to solar, um, in solar, you see a lot of people pushing, like a lot of creative financing. But for us, our vision is being debt free with solar. And how can we incentivize people? How can we speed up kind of the ROI for homeowners? Because currently, right now, in light of the tax credit being rolled back, You're seeing a lot of creative financing with people's systems being installed. You're seeing a lot of PPAs and leases being offered. But for us, the reason why we want to structure ours not as the reason why RBIT for one is no lease terms, no PPA terms, no ownership clawbacks for us. It's just pure cash incentive. It's because we want to incentivize people to put that down payment down so that way they can own their power a lot sooner. They can own the totality of their power a lot sooner, at least if they're going the financing route.
Got it.
40% of the industry is cash buyers. So a lot of people are willing to pay the money to go solar. It's just a matter of how many incentives can I apply so that way I'm not shelling out the full amount, bearing full to the cost.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Subject aside from RBIT, and we'll probably jump into RBIT in a back, but tell me about a Faith Fund future project. What is it that basically you attack there, or let's say some of the initiatives that you handle in that other project?
So yeah, I mean, I'm a designer by training, and like I said, I've always had like creative ideas. So I actually started that back in college, way before RBIT, like a few years ago. And that's just like our design, my personal design brand, design studio. Ultimately, RBIT is kind of like consuming a lot of my focus and attention right now. But one day we're going to pour back into Faith Fund Future, and I already been thinking of some cool ideas and concepts. Potentially working with a few other industrial designers, graphic designers, to push out some content through that brand.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's that little thing. It's just like a cool place where we can just put any like spare ideas and see what looks cool. So
right.
Yeah.
So listen, I think that there's a lot of, I think there's people are constantly talking about entrepreneurship in this era of AI. Tell me what has been, your take on AI. How is AI helping you as a solo entrepreneur? How has AI helped you, stay ahead of the game or optimize what you're doing in your venture with Arbit and overall entrepreneurship?
Yeah. When I was doing my other stuff, like in college, it would have definitely helped me get my schoolwork done faster so I can have more time for entrepreneurship. But nonetheless, like, I don't condone cheating. Do your own work, kids, if you're listening. But like AI, like it's helping me tremendously. Like right now, and the thing about business and entrepreneurship, especially if you're just starting out, is all about speed. And it's all about how fast can you move between tasks. Because everyone has the same 24 hours, but you don't want to waste, half of your day on one task. You want to, in that same time that you're spending 12 on one task across 12 hours, you could be doing maybe 3 or 4 different tasks. And so AI helps with that. In my particular instance, I use a lot of AI to kind of be a soundboard and just be quick as far as like responses. If I'm in a rapid prototyping session, or if I'm doing like a lot of iterating on an idea before I go down the route of spending time to wireframe a business framework for it and a revenue generation model and who my ICP is, I use AI kind of as a soundboard. And I'm also like, unless you pay for like the higher tiers, it limits you to like certain responses, a certain number of responses per day. Right. So
right.
There's a little bit of like effort you have to put into like what you feed it. So obviously you don't like waste like your credits for the day and then you have to wait till tomorrow 100%. Or you have to hop to Gemini or you have to hop to Grok or something. But now I use AI all the time throughout my business, and we're looking at incorporating it very heavily in kind of the operations and the functions of RBIT.
That's funny. I'm curious, and I just asked because I'm, kind of jumping between model and model all the time. And any specific model that you usually use more or less, or you prefer to work with?
I've noticed, like if I want to write like a passage or something, like Claude is better for writing. Like essay format, journal format, article format is better at that. Grok is better for like math, So like when I'd be on the job at like a few of my tech companies that I was working at, if there's a quick technical question I needed, blah, 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 almost sometimes in the meeting, blah, 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 just put it in, and then
Yeah.
I could get like help with that. Gemini is good for images and like the realism with like I like their Nano Banana Pro too. But overall, I do find myself using when I haven't exhausted my daily credits, I see myself using a lot of Claude. Um, what is like the new? It's called Strata or something. I don't know. I forget what the new model is called. I forget. But Grok has a cool model too. I like Grok because it's quick, and then like if you use it through Twitter, it doesn't like time you out. Like you can just keep typing through it. So I like it. So
Right. Yeah, I think Grok is it's the sleeping horse in a way, right? I think we talk about a lot about ChatGPT and Claude, and we're super focused on the big two, right? Obviously, the biggest source is ChatGPT, but Claude is really eating their lunch. I don't want to say eating their lunch because they're not as big, but they are growing at a pace that unprecedented for any U.S. company, right? This has been incredible, the numbers that they've been pulling. Um, but I think that Grok is slowly kind of surfacing into a power force also. Um, in your space, right? Talking about solar finance and residential renewals. How do you see AI converging, right? What do you see AI? How do you see it impacting that space, or where are the possibilities, right, with AI in your way in your vision?
um, you're saying like how can AI like impact like a residential space for solar?
Right. Do you
Yeah.
see are you seeing any angles that, let's say, it's already impacting or that can make a difference, let's say?
Right. I think how it can impact is like for like through our work, what we're doing as far as like vetting residential properties for how viable they are for solar. Because ultimately, like I was kind of touching on earlier, there's a big issue with what's being sold and what can actually be built. I noticed as an engineer from the residential sector to multifamily to C&I, commercial industrial scale, how what the sales rep or business development specialist puts in front of a property owner that might not be able to be built. Or if it is built, it's actually not economically viable to build. And they're going to be running at a loss over 25 years. Not right. If they're financing it, like the interest is compounding and their losses are compounding at the same time. Because it's not a matter of if, but when, if it's needs maintenance, right? It's like purchasing an expensive vehicle, but you don't make enough to own the vehicle and to pay for the maintenance. So, you get a few flat tires and now like you're in trouble or, you can't afford to get the oil change. Right. And so the AI can be useful with placing homeowners and aligning them with what can be built. Or there are better, I'll just say like the equipment choices on the engineering side can be a lot more efficient and the engineering can be done a lot efficiently better through AI to run calculations, whether it's wire sizing or so forth. That's on the engineering side. Now, with
Right.
what we're doing on the financial side, as far as incentives, is for us, it's more of a matter of how quickly the question we're seeking at RBIT is how quickly from the time someone applies for an incentive to being approved and docs being sent. And so what we're looking at utilizing with artificial intelligence is the validity of their solar proposal for uploading, the utility bill, their deed, um, and the information that they're entering in through the application, um, measuring and scanning that validity, as well as truly like interpreting, is this system actually viable? Because at RBIT, right, we're incentivizing people to go solar and we want to incentivize the best systems to go solar. And we don't want to send incentive money. It would be very inefficient for us to incentivize something that can't be built. And so it's
Right.
also like helping, how else can we tackle kind of the issue in the industry of misinformation and false hope that a lot of customers are being sold on. And so if we can impact that, if we can instill that in our industry, or excuse me, if we can instill that in our company, then we can impact the industry positively.
Right.
So
Yeah. I can see how that can definitely speed up definitely the process. Let me ask you, and this I'm curious because I've been actually looking into moving from Florida, Austin was definitely one of my choices. Still can be. I know there's a lot of changes in the real estate there. During COVID, I think the max exile that happened from California, a lot of people landed in Austin. Um, and real estate just shot up. And I mentioned this because obviously there's a big tie from what you do with real estate. Now it's definitely correcting. You can see a lot of real estate available in Austin. I think that there's been a stage where there was a bit of a overdevelopment, right? Because, and then, like everything, things correct. Where I'm going with this is, do you see any developers maybe being incentivized with already offering, uh, solar uh, in their build outs? Or is this something that maybe some of the developers are, maybe willing to include in order to potentially, let's say, sell or make these sales more attractive? Or is this something that some of the house builders don't even touch? That they leave it up to discretion of the buyer?
Well, one, you know, to become an installation company and operate in that manner, a lot of install companies actually run on thin margins, right? Due to compliance, due to needing certifications. So for a developer who already has their own construction and build costs to now install solar, right?
Yeah.
That requires another layer of compliance, another layer of engineering, another layer of this or that. I mean, yes, there are providers out there, there are manufacturers out there like Tesla that sell, um, solar shingles and so forth.
Right.
But ultimately, builders are looking for, how can we construct this home, uh, obviously cost effectively,
Correct.
and fastest. And solar would slow down. I mean, depending on where they're building, the permitting process for solar is
Yeah.
slow, right?
Okay.
Where they are. And it can take months, and it can just add months onto. And if that's part of the home development before you go to sell or before you can list it, um, then that's going to obviously
Yeah.
impact flow time and,
Yeah.
you not recouping your investment on that property you are selling. So, there's probably there's some financial merit to it as to why you don't see a lot of builders building solar into the builds of a home. Um,
Hmm.
would it help the adoption? Obviously, because it would be built in. Um,
Right.
you know what I mean? But that's really a big factor, I assume.
So you say that there's definitely a big bottleneck from the moment that you decide to get solar to the design, architect, and then installation. There's definitely a time that something can be done during that process, or something can be streamlined to facilitate that process.
You're saying like if they build it into the home?
Well, not necessarily. Let's take the builders out of the equation, but let's say obviously, we know how builders are. They're trying to make money, right? A profit. And obviously, like you said, their margins sometimes thin up very quickly, especially if they can't get, liquidity flowing, right? If they can't sell, if the sales stop, then they don't have the money to be able to add, more features, right? But that also is telling of a bottleneck that exists in the adoption, right? Meaning it's not just as easy a decision to say, let's build solar or let's put solar in my house. How long does it take an average from a person deciding to say the person deciding to say, I want solar in my home to the actual installation and implementation of solar, more or less?
Um, I think the biggest thing is primarily like when you see people utilizing, oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Um, ultimately I think like the builder case in the scenario for them is, from what I see, is again, it's just like that aversion. And so I guess with regards to how RBIT could help, um, we really want to incentivize the homeowner, because ultimately what we see is like a homeowner decision. It's not really a decision that like builders want to involve themselves on. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
No,
I
no,
would.
that's fine. That's fine. No, and I get it. Maybe I was a bit confusing when I mentioned the hypothesis of the home builder. But my question is mostly related to the time where a homeowner decides and says, I want solar in my house, to the time that he actually makes that a reality. How long is that process? And is there maybe a way that
Okay, yeah.
there could be a system streamlined where that process is shortened, right?
No, I got you.
Does it take 6 months from the time that somebody says I want solar in my home, or does it take 3 months, or is this a 60-day process, or could it
Right,
take a year, right? Where's the bottleneck there
right.
from
So, I mean, typically when people like first move into your house, you see like a lot of like new build neighborhoods. Like you see like an influx in like solar sales reps like flooding that neighborhood, right? Because typically when someone buys a house, they're in like purchase mode, right? Like, okay, I need new furniture. Okay, this will look nice. Oh, this chair will look nice over here. Oh, maybe a pool will look great. And then so that's why it's like really you kind of see like in that home buyer psychology event
Mhm.
of them purchasing a new home, like you see like a huge flood in like promotionals, like solar is included, unfortunately, in that. Uh, Again, because of like people selling it, don't know what they're selling. Anyways, so typically like if someone says they want solar, again, depending on where their like local AHJ is at, because ultimately the biggest bottleneck is permitting. The biggest bottleneck can be equipment, depending on like what type of modules they want to use, what type of inverter they want to use. Again, these are just parts that make up the installation on the roof.
Right.
So, right, if they want to go with something, component that's more in demand, then depending on who they're going with for that device or for that component, the lead time could be a lot longer. And so
Yeah.
that's what explodes kind of like the timelines
Okay.
there.
All
So
right.
yeah,
So I say there's two bottlenecks. There's the permitting part, and then there's also the equipment part, right?
right,
Availability of the equipment.
right.
Okay. Is it common that there's a lot of these equipment is still in back order? Is this a common issue right now?
Um, I mean, it was really scary last year with like the tariff situation because a lot of
Right.
components from China. And then you're
Right.
starting to see kind of a shift towards US manufacturing. Uh, and there are lots of incentives for US manufacturing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure some of them got rolled back as well, for solar. Um, with regards to residential specifically, commercial, you're still able to claim it. Um, if a certain percentage of the build is domestic content. But yeah, to answer your question, you know, those bottlenecks, then depending on where they get the equipment, can obviously impact it.
Cherry, are you got any questions?
Yeah, so basically, I remember, while in the pre-podcast call, you talking about, that using AI to reduce the time, to some period of 15 minutes, cleaning process can be reduced by, implementation of AI, and you guys are already working upon that part. So can you, elaborate, how the process looks like at the moment, and with integration of AI, how can you further reduce screening time and the process can be more optimized in general?
Okay, so essentially, right, like how we're utilizing AI kind of in our process and our progress so far, right? So essentially, like I said, so RBIT Financial, we're basically an incentive company. We have an intake form that, first of all, we need to process, that we use to process a lot of the applicants, homeowners, sales reps who are submitting applications on with regards to homeowners. So with regards to that entire process, we're utilizing artificial intelligence and we're starting to look into, okay, how can we, again, for the speed of the review, because right now it takes us about 24 to 48 hours to work through an application. We have a technical feasibility team that's reviewing the componentry and reviewing that solar proposal that the homeowner is submitting. And so utilizing artificial intelligence to speed up that review process time, which can obviously then accelerate, from start to finish that entire process for a homeowner. So that way they can be incentivized and put in our queue faster for them receiving an incentive. So currently right now, we've kind of gone past the ideation stage into basic wireframing stage. We're looking at just building out kind of how we want that workflow to look, not only on the homeowners end, but our end. as far as utilizing artificial intelligence. And then what we're looking at also is potentially plugging in artificial intelligence for the review process, because uh, you know, homeowners are contractually obligated to have their system installed by a certain date in the future. And so we're looking at ways of how we can cost effectively review and basically audit to see if that installation has in fact been purchased with said materials that they submitted for. Again, just tightening kind of, the strength of our incentive model. So that way there's no gaps as far as who we're incentivizing.
Right.
Yeah. So one more thing that I wanted to understand is, that recently I see with the advent of AI also, there's huge automations being, employed by small and medium scale businesses. So you mentioned about, how you can use AI to further optimize your process, especially the screening process. So, are you guys also, using some kind of other automations also into your daily workflows to, to send out automatic reminders, email or stuff like that to, to increase your, the post customer service or, the peak customer service to further enhance your workflow and, to, increase the speed of response into your complete communication cycle?
No, and currently we need to use more of it for a lot of those operational things. Like I said, we currently only use it for like a lot of drafting and a lot of like refinement. But I'm interested in seeing how AI could potentially, we could partner with it almost like as virtual assistants, not just for myself but for the team. It would just definitely speed up a lot of things. Emails as they come in. What if an email as it comes in could be quickly broken down? So that way we don't have to spend time trying to decipher what they're meaning or what they're saying. And it could just kind of be like put in layman terms for us so we can just make that decision faster. Again, it's all about speed for us, speed with investor relations, speed with, handling homeowners. You would think that like giving money is easy, but it's not. And so, obviously can we strengthen kind of our operations so that way when we do disbursements, it can be a lot efficient. Because right now in this first year, we're targeting 300 disbursements, which is not a lot of homes in the solar industry. It is for some, it is for us at least, right? But then when we start paying out 10,000 disbursements a quarter, it's important for us to have the operational efficiency, because 10,000 payments is a lot to process. And inevitably, if we end up getting to, millions of payments or hundreds of thousands of payments at least quarter over quarter, which is our goal over the next 10 years, we really need to have the operational efficiency, and time is very important.
So, what's the biggest bottleneck that you are at the moment facing regarding, achieving your yearly goal regarding the target that you mentioned about? And especially, what are you doing in this quarter to, to remove that bottleneck to hit that target at the end of the year?
So what's the biggest bottleneck?
Yeah.
On the AI side?
Yeah. Or operation in general, what is the biggest bottleneck that is, capping your pace to achieve that annual target? And what are you
Yeah.
doing in this quarter to, solve that issue?
Yeah. My biggest bottleneck, utilizing AI in the operations it's probably, it's also kind of a strength, but it's just the fact that you have to bounce between different ones because each one has their own strength. Like I said, Grok is better for like doing calculations, but I like how conversationally Claude flows. ChatGPT was obviously the one I used a lot, but then kind of at the turn of this year, I kind of use it for just quick responses, quick quality responses. Grok has gotten better as well. I used Gemini for a bit, but I think it's a little robotic. So it would be cool if there was just like one uniform, provider that could provide everything we're looking for. That would be cool. I know they're all kind of do the same thing, but there are certainly strengths and weaknesses with each one. So that's kind of the biggest thing with like AI that I can point to.
Yeah, what you need is probably an internal model for you, right? That you can just program it, set the parameters, and then you can feed the applications, and it could just immediately go through the approval process. I'm curious, just to get a little bit deep. When you say incentivize, so you're more of you offer finance accessibility to your prospects, right? It's do you get anything subsidized by the government, or is you just offer the finance and the prospects just pay you back?
So
On
we're
that
not
finance?
we're not a loan or financing company. We give cash back.
Right.
So if the cost of your solar installation is $20,000 and you select either 15% or 22% cash back, you're getting that, $3 or so $1,000 back in cash from us.
Got it.
And then based off which tier you choose, it's paid within 14 days or 36 months. So to answer your question, no, we don't claw back. We don't take some of the money from the installation. We don't, have a backstop agreement with any government agency or with any, local authority having jurisdiction. Everything is privatized. And so with that being
Right.
said, the innovation in our model is our exclusivity contract, and how, okay, every $1 million we're putting into the equation is generating 7.4 million back in. We're able to 7x kind of our stimulus that we're providing. Out of that value, we're able to charge the stakeholders downstream who are profiting, who otherwise wouldn't be profiting anything if we didn't step in and stimulate, these buyers. And so our
Right.
sustainability, or the sustainability of our model, it comes from us partnering with, highly scalable, trustworthy, install groups, sales organizations
Yes.
who are selling quality product and
Got
install
it.
quality product. And then through that, we're able to not only restore the name of solar, but also we're generating this downstream business that the tax credit was doing, but instead
Yeah.
they're doing it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. 100%. I get it now. Great. What your ideal candidate is always, that, home buyer, right? So you target through, real estate agents and things like that. Are you doing what's your marketing look like? Like, how do you reach out to the masses to let them know that you even do this type of service, right?
right. So it's actually funny. We don't do any marketing.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't run ads, we don't pay for ads. We don't do anything. Everything is word of mouth. Again, so to answer the question, our target, we start with the distributors who are selling the components, because the distributors have the installation companies, and those installation companies who are buying from the distributors, they have
Yeah.
solar sales organizations who are feeding them projects to go
Mm-hmm.
install. So all we need to do is just start at the lower layer, and those relationships, uh, you know, my team, we've been working hard on bringing in a few into our mix that are these mom and pop shops across the country who could benefit
Yeah.
from the boost in business. And so
Yeah.
with that, we're cultivating those relationships so that way it can open the door for the higher echelon relationships. And we can scale from there. So we actually don't really
Got it.
do marketing because,
Right.
we're providing the deal, we're providing the funding, they're providing the deal flow. And so,
Yes. Got it. Yeah.
I mean,
So it's through the distributor is really the one promoting you, right? It's really putting you, across with their buyers and giving them an incentive. Hey, work through this. Being this way, you're going to get a kickback for working with us for being our customer. Got it. Understood. Makes sense. Have you spread out to other cities besides Austin? Are you in other areas in Texas, or you're focusing right now on Austin?
no, we're available in all 50 states. Um, we're available in all 50 states. So
Oh, amazing.
we're not agnostic to a certain, we're agnostic. We're not less specific to a certain, state or
I love it.
locality. This is super helpful for people who live in regions where electric rates are expensive, like on the
Yep.
coastlines. So California, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington, places where, electric costs have really exploded over the last, decade. This is for you. And yeah, we're excited to be working and partnering. I mean, our inbox is flooded right now with like a lot of companies that are looking for incentive and how they can differentiate themselves to the customers in the market. And we're happy to be building that solution for people.
Wow, that's great. That's amazing. What other states or what states do you say benefit more from solar right now? Where do you think that people are actually applying more for solar from your
Um,
perspective, obviously?
yeah, I know the state of Illinois, for a while, they've had very favorable like state incentives to help people adopt. Texas, again, overall, like the cost is cheaper here because energy is cheaper here. And so you're seeing it priced a lot lower on average compared to places like California or Massachusetts or New York or what have you. Um, but overall, it's still kind of in the same hot button areas where it's sunnier. It's kind of like the predisposition, right? So California, politically, people aren't inclined there to adopt. I know there was policy where every new build in solar had to have a residential battery installed, and so like this, you see the state pushing it a lot. Texas probably not so much, um,
Right.
but you still see people, venturing out and claiming what's theirs. So, yeah.
How do you see the future of solar, and how do you see the future of AI? Um, well,
The
let's start with one. What do you see the future of solar first? You being in that kind of in the mix, right, where you are on a daily day basis, right, seeing people, you know, transforming into solar power, and then what do you see AI impacting, that space in the future?
Yes, I see solar. Uh, you know, with RBIT, what we're trying to do is we're trying to, um, bring the nation down towards 10% ecological footprint, and ultimately, I align with the mission of how can we as a people, not just America, but frankly the world, how can we become a Kardashev II society? So Kardashev II society is a society or civilization that harnesses a majority of the power from the sun. Because currently right now, we only harness a little bit of it, right? But Kardashev II is a planet's species. It sounds very scientific and sci-fi-ish, right? But ultimately, how can we, harvest a lot of our energy towards the sun, which our belief is one, it'll stabilize inflation and make life more affordable for the masses. So they'll be able to spend money on things that they need, things that they want, uh, versus like things that they have to that are slowly inflating, like energy. Energy is a precursor to inflation. And so we
Right.
see your solar being 0 point, so on everyone's home. And then inevitably, uh, you know, there's ideas about, how could solar how could solar revolutionize and how could energy revolutionize on a macro scale, not just from solar and everyone having to get it installed in their home, like an addition, but what if there's some sort of, 0 point being that can just be down from and aggregate it. So what is that? So ultimately in the name of sustainability, whatever's the most sustainable at scale is definitely the move. And solar by far is the most sustainable solution.
Yeah. Um,
And then you said, what's the future of it, right?
what's the future of AI in your sector? How do you see it? Right. What are the possibilities, or where is going to make a move the needle? And you can be a little broad, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I know this is a technology that we're far from understanding how it's going to change the world, right? But from how you've been adopting it and how you've been interacting with the technology, what do you see? Where do you see the main change, right? In your eyes,
Yes. So a big pain point in the industry is obviously maintenance and support. Uh, stepping kind of out of the conversation of financial and how we utilize it. uh,
right?
you're going to see a lot of my prediction, which is going to be very crazy. And I'm curious to what y'all think maybe, but you're going to see a lot of like humanoid robots in the
Yeah,
sector. And particularly, you're going to see a lot of the maintenance and support services. You're going to see a lot of that becoming more and more automated. For example, like drone photography, they don't anymore have to get up on the roof any longer and take photos and scans of building rooftops for maintenance or for
yeah.
trouble. They can just fly a drone over, and then it has
A drone.
infrared cameras that can sense kind of a hot spot on the panel or a hot spot on the
Yeah,
roof. You know,
I think we're seeing that already. It's incredible. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So it
Yeah,
kind of saves time for people having to get up on the rooftop. And then obviously you see what Elon's doing at Tesla with Optimus robots and Figure. They're also producing humanoid robots. You're going to see a lot of those in the industry, and it's going to bring down manufacturing costs as well as support costs. So that's going to be really interesting.
yeah. I think it's going to be big for the U.S. economy. Like you said, a lot of manufacturing is going to come back to the U.S. And I think ultimately will make every country a bit more autonomous, right? I think that, this is not, even though the technology, we're head fronting it, but China's right behind it, and it's going to benefit every developing country across the board. So we're about to see, in a way, a economic utopia. If we're looking at through the positive lens, right? It's hard to see it because this is, it's kind of like a dream economy, right, in a way. But we're in a very, very interesting time in our lives. So, Sharia, you have a couple of last questions. I know we've almost running out of time, but
Yeah, there will be just one question from my side, and yeah, I will won't take much time. So, Addison, I want to ask you, any advice for young entrepreneurs who are just starting out this journey, especially in the world of sustainability?
Right. You know, I would definitely say there's definitely enough room at the table. If you have an idea, just jump in and throw it out there and see what people think. And it's all about speed and refinement. We're talking a lot about artificial intelligence. Use it to your advantage. Don't just consume content, but create content, post, wireframe ideas, draft things up, get them in front of people as soon as you can, because that's going to lead you to further refine your decision and iterate your decision and reach that solution fast. And then lastly, obviously, do align yourself in a sector or a line of work or a product or service that you would use yourself. There's a lot of people in the sustainability industry who are just here for money, and they don't really believe in what they're doing, and it
yeah,
resonates with what they are selling. Homeowners, it's resonating with what they're selling. Business owners, manufacturers. I think that's ultimately like the bane of our industry. And so it would be a blessing if we had more men and women jumping into the industry who were seeking to build solutions to ultimately make energy more affordable and more accessible for the masses, which is what at least I'm trying to do. So that's my advice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing, Addison. Listen, it's been a pleasure to bring you on, kind of get to know you, get to know what you're doing. We'd be more than happy to make sure that we can promote your product and your service, right? More your service. So looking forward to maybe building something together, and maybe
Absolutely.
having you on the show in the future. I know that there's things will definitely change. I think that we're at the mercy of a couple of rate cuts, and you're going to see those 10,000 intakes a month. It's going to definitely ramp up,
Right.
especially with the
Yes,
topic
sir.
of energy,
Hopefully.
right? That everybody's talking about energy right now and the importance of, becoming independent. So I think it's a matter of time where people really, really, and you have the younger generation that eventually, if affordability comes back down, everybody's it's a topic that everybody wants to be part of, renewable energy and energy independence. So awesome. Well, best of luck, and we'll see you hopefully soon. All right.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Awesome, you got it.